Good evening, night shifters. This is Third Shift HFY. Settle in, and let tonight's stars tell their story.
Rain hammered the cratered no man's land, a metallic rhythm tapping out the odds of survival. Even the dead seemed to flinch when thunder rolled and the earth shook. This was not a place for the weak, and the strong didn't last much longer.
He moved in a slow, battered crouch, rifle close, mud up to his shins. His boots left desperate tracks in the blasted earth, a story of near misses and close calls. Every muscle ached, old wounds reopening with each rough step.
Just one quiet hour, he muttered, eyes darting to the charred ruins and shifting mist. Just one. The world answered with a deep animal growl. He froze. A shadow, too long, too low to the ground, unfurled in the fog ahead, scales gleaming beneath battered fur. Golden eyes locked onto him. Wings, ragged but mighty, flexed in the gloom, claws curled, tail sweeping the mud. The Wyrmlynx. They regarded each other, two apex survivors brought low by the same war, neither willing to back down, both too wounded to run. The soldier's breath caught as he recognized a savage intelligence behind those eyes, the faint quiver of pain in its stance.
You're not supposed to be here, are you?
He risked a slow step back, not daring to break eye contact. The Wyrmlynx's lips pulled back, revealing stained fangs. It didn't charge, just watched, muscles tensed, a low rumble vibrating the air. The wind shifted. Somewhere far off, the shriek of artillery. Then silence. Too much silence. They both felt it. Something else was coming.
Guess we're not alone after all. The beast's ears flicked, and for a moment, fear flashed in its gaze. The soldier's knuckles whitened on his rifle, and the Wyrmlynx's tail lashed the ground. Out in the murk, heavy footsteps pounded, drawing closer, louder.
Human and Wyrmlynx, enemy, stranger, mirror, were left with a single choice. Fight each other and die, or face the unknown together. Thunder rippled across the wasteland, the ground vibrating with every distant impact. Mist twisted between the broken earth and blackened trees, wrapping both soldier and beast in a grey shroud. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Only wary eyes and the shallow breath of two survivors, with everything to lose. The soldier shifted his weight, mud sucking at his boots.
All right, big fella. I'm not here to be dinner. You make a move,
He broke off as the Wyrmlynx prowled a step closer, muscles rolling beneath scale and fur, every motion promising violence. The beast let out a low, guttural warning, hackles raised. Its golden eyes flickered with pain, but also calculation, like it was judging whether he'd be worth the effort.
Yeah, you're hurt too, the human muttered, lowering his rifle an inch,
torn between sympathy and survival. A branch snapped in the fog. Both snapped to attention, heads swiveling toward the sound, enemy boots slogging through muck, voices shouting in an alien tongue.
Down, quiet.
He slid behind a fallen slab of armor, glancing sideways at the Wyrmlynx, whose ears pinned flat and body flattened low, blending perfectly with the wreckage. Through a break in the mist, armored enemy soldiers appeared, hulking, inhuman, scanning the wreckage with thermal sights. The soldier's heart pounded as a beam swept inches from his face. He held his breath, rifle steady but finger trembling. The Wyrmlynx tensed, ready to pounce if discovered. One enemy paused, visor reflecting pale sunlight, weapon raised. The soldier pressed his lips tight, sweat trickling down his neck. The patrol moved on, footsteps fading, voices swallowed by distance. He let out a long, shaky breath. That was too close. The Wyrmlynx's ears flicked back. It huffed, a sound that almost felt like a grudging acceptance. Still, it didn't take its eyes off him. Then, deeper in the fog, a new roar thundered, mechanical, savage, and unmistakably hunting. Both man and beast felt it in their bones. There would be no safety in standoff. Not tonight. The air tasted electric. War. Sainted mist swirling, thick with the smell of oil and old blood. Somewhere beyond the shattered trunks, metal shrieked against stone, and a mechanical roar rose to a fever pitch. Whatever hunted the wasteland now made no effort to hide its coming.
The soldier steadied his grip on the rifle, breath tight in his chest.
Great. As if one nightmare wasn't enough. The Wyrmlynx stiffened beside him, fur bristling, tail coiling low. Its eyes narrowed,
pupils thinning to slits, every muscle quivering on the edge of flight or violence. A guttural growl rolled from its chest, different this time, sharp and urgent.
A monstrous silhouette crashed into view, part beast, part machine, all hunger. Armored plates gleamed wet and bloody, too many eyes scanning, mouth bristling with saw-edged teeth. It paused, sniffing the air. Human and Wyrmlynx pressed deeper into the debris, fear welding them together for one frozen second.
If we split, we die.
The human breathed, knuckles white on the trigger.
We move on my count.
The Wyrmlynx didn't blink, its attention locked on the predator. The bioweapon lunged. The soldier fired, once, twice, shots sparking harmlessly off armored hide.
The Wyrmlynx sprang in a blur of claws and scale, slashing for exposed joints, snarling pure fury.
The creature spun, slamming the beast aside, but the human was already moving, rolling, dodging, jamming a scavenged grenade under a tangle of cables near its neck.
The explosion rocked the clearing. The bioweapon reared, shrieking, jaws snapping as smoke poured from wounded metal. The Wyrmlynx struck again, fangs sinking deep, blood and oil mixing in the mud. The soldier scrambled up.
Now, move!
Together, man and Wyrmlynx dove through the debris as the bioweapon thrashed and raged, tearing the earth apart behind them.
They skidded to a halt in the ruins, chests heaving, blood, human and beast, mixing on the ground. For one raw moment, they weren't enemies, just survivors, but neither trusted the truce to last. The ruins smoldered, steam rising from shattered metal and burning cables. For a heartbeat, everything went still. No guns, no roar, just the wet panting of two battered survivors locked in the world's hardest truce.
The soldier pressed a blood-soaked rag to his arm, flinching as pain laced through muscle. The Wyrmlynx limped a few meters away, licking a long gash in its flank. Its wings drooped, torn membrane catching flickers of wan sunlight.
Didn't think you'd jump in back there, he managed, voice ragged.
Not sure if I should thank you or be scared.
The Wyrmlynx snapped its head around, fangs bared in a low hiss. Not trust, not yet, but a warning. Boundaries still mattered. He pulled a ration bar from his vest, tossing it a few feet toward the beast.
Here. Might be poison, but it's all I got.
The Wyrmlynx sniffed the bar, then smacked it away with one paw, eyes narrowing, distrustful, hungry, proud. The soldier grunted, frustration and fatigue gnawing at his patience. He took a wary sip from his canteen, only to find the beast stalking closer, eyes fixed on his every move. Suddenly, attention snapped. With a guttural snarl, the Wyrmlynx lunged, not at him, but at his pack. The soldier reacted instantly.
Hey, back off!
He grabbed the rifle, swinging it up. The two circled, predator and prey blurred, both wounded and desperate. Claws raked fabric, boots slammed stone. The soldier managed to wedge his body between the beast and his gear, chest heaving. For a split second, the Wyrmlynx froze, staring him down. Then, with a scornful huff, it leapt away into the mist, vanishing between broken walls and ruined trees.
Guess we're not friends after all. He dropped to his knees, breath shaky, adrenaline ebbing. The wasteland felt colder without the beast's heat at his side. But as dusk thickened, a distant, desperate yowl rang out. Pain and fear, unmistakably Wyrmlynx. The soldier's battered heart twisted. Whatever fragile truce they'd had, it wasn't finished yet.
The cold bit hard as darkness bled into the ruins, every distant sound sharpened by hunger and pain. The soldier moved with a limp, his silhouette shivering in the half-light. Somewhere ahead, the Wyrmlynx's cry echoed, sharp, ragged, too much pain to be pried alone.
He picked his way through the rubble, pausing at every shadow, rifle ready but eyes searching for something he couldn't name. The world felt emptier than before. Even the wind carried a sense of unfinished business. He found the Wyrmlynx wedged deep in a collapsed trench, half buried under broken concrete and twisted rebar. Its chest rose and fell in shallow, trembling breaths, wings pinned and tail twitching weakly. Gold eyes met his, raw with fear and fury.
Easy. I'm not here to finish it. He crouched beside the beast, keeping his movements slow, every muscle tense with caution. From his belt he pulled a battered multi-tool, prying debris loose inch by inch.
The Wyrmlynx bared its fangs, ears flat, but didn't lash out. Pain and exhaustion had won for now.
Hold on, almost got you.
At last, the last bar twisted free. The creature slid from the wreckage, collapsing on its side. The soldier pulled a small medkit from his vest, hands shaking as he patched the worst of the wounds. The Wyrmlynx flinched, but didn't stop him.
He broke his last ration bar, setting half within reach.
You owe me. Don't get used to it.
The Wyrmlynx sniffed the offering, then snapped it up in 2 bites. For the first time, a low rumbling purr vibrated the air. A warning, or maybe thanks. Side by side, they huddled against the cold, both battered, both awake.
The silence between them was heavy, but no longer hostile.
In the darkness, a new sound grew. Enemy boots on broken ground, coming fast. Man and beast, healed but far from whole, braced for what the night would bring.
The world narrowed to moonlight and breath, the hush before chaos. Enemy scouts fanned through the ruins, flashlights slashing the dark, radios hissing in clipped, inhuman voices. The soldier and the Wyrmlynx crouched low in the shadow of a broken wall, tension snapping between them like static.
The soldier's hand hovered over his rifle, eyes meeting the beast's in a wordless question. The Wyrmlynx pressed close, muscles bunching, tail lashing with anticipation. A pair of scouts drew near, weapons up, armor clanking softly. One barked an order, the other turned, right into the soldier's arm.
Stay down,
He hissed, lunging. The rifle cracked, a muffled shot dropping the first enemy where he stood. The second raised his weapon, but the Wyrmlynx pounced. A flash of fang and claw, the alien scream cut off in the darkness. The beast moved with lethal precision, protecting its wounded side but leaving no doubt. It was a killer, and now a partner.
Good work, furball.
The Wyrmlynx snorted, fur bristling, but didn't back away. Instead, it circled to cover his flank, eyes scanning the debris for more threats. As the next wave of scouts advanced, the soldier and Wyrmlynx moved together. Silent signals, perfectly timed.
The soldier lured 2 into a snare of tripwires and shrapnel. The beast dragged a third into the shadows, ending the fight with a shattering crunch.
By the time dawn crept over the wasteland, the ruins were littered with enemy gear and broken bodies. The soldier slumped against a wall, chest heaving, sweat and blood mixing on his skin. The Wyrmlynx prowled in a wide arc, then settled at his side, body touching his for the first time without flinching. For a long moment, they simply breathed. Man and beast, no longer rivals, but survivors bound by blood and necessity. Then, from the far end of the ruins, a new, thunderous barrage shook the earth. The real battle was about to begin.
Night pressed in, heavy with gun smoke and the stink of burning wreckage. The soldier and the Wyrmlynx limped into a shallow hollow, blood crusting their wounds, exhaustion dragging at every limb. A battered ration pack crackled in his hands as he fumbled for scraps, and the beast's eyes followed every move with hungry intent.
He dropped to a knee by the embers of a scavenged fire, wincing as a bullet graze burned beneath his sleeve. The Wyrmlynx circled, sniffing the air, finally collapsing beside him in a heap of fur and battered scale.
I swear, if you snore, I'm throwing you back to the enemy.
The Wyrmlynx rumbled, tail flicking, and nudged his side with its heavy head. Half challenge, half exhausted camaraderie. He broke the last of his rations in 2, tossing a chunk to the beast.
There goes dinner for tomorrow. Hope you're worth it.
The Wyrmlynx tore at the food, then licked a blooded paw and eyed him sidelong, as if measuring his usefulness. Its purr was low, not quite friendly but no longer hostile. Lightning forked far away, briefly illuminating their battered shapes. The soldier stared into the flames, face drawn, eyes distant. Never thought I'd make friends with a flying death machine. War's weird, huh? The beast responded with a long, rumbling huff, almost amusement. For a fleeting moment, the wasteland felt less lonely. Together they watched the fire dwindle. Wind hissed through the ruins, and every shadow promised danger. Yet, for the first time, sleep felt possible. But as their eyes drifted shut, a distant, mechanical growl echoed on the horizon, the unmistakable promise of fresh violence by dawn.
Dawn broke with artillery, scarlet streaks across the sky, the earth shaking under the thunder of a full-scale offensive. The soldier jerked awake, instinct dragging him upright. The Wyrmlynx leapt to its feet, hackles flared, a guttural snarl vibrating deep in its chest. The world dissolved into chaos. Enemy troops stormed through the ruins, energy blasts shredding stone and air alike. The soldier ducked a barrage, rolling behind twisted rebar, rifle barking in return.
Stay close. We move together.
The Wyrmlynx surged into the fray, wings flaring, tail whipping soldiers aside like ragdolls. A blast grazed its shoulder, drawing a shriek of rage and pain. The beast fought with desperate fury, leaping, slashing, rolling through fire and smoke. The soldier matched its pace, moving with a purpose he hadn't felt in years. Together they carved a path through the storm. The man laying traps, sniping from cover. The beast tearing through enemy lines, shielding him from crossfire. Each movement felt perfectly timed, as if some old instinct had finally found its partner. Enemy reinforcements circled, pressing in. The soldier threw a signal grenade, brilliant light exploding in the fog.
Now, run!
The Wyrmlynx bolted at his side, battered but unbroken. They vaulted a shattered wall just as a blast cratered the ground behind them, debris raining like steel hail. For a moment, they stood back to back in a clearing, breathing hard, blood and mud streaking both bodies, eyes wide with the thrill and terror of survival. But the enemy was not finished. A tank rumbled into view, barrel lowering to fire. The soldier grabbed the Wyrmlynx's mane.
On my mark, charge!
The beast bared its fangs in a snarl that sounded almost like laughter. The two lunged forward as one, into the teeth of the guns, refusing to die quiet, refusing to die alone. The world narrowed to pain and gunfire. The soldier crashed behind the smoking husk of a tank, chest heaving, vision blurred with sweat and blood. Enemy soldiers converged from all sides, their shouts echoing through the ruined streets. He risked a glance, just in time to see the Wyrmlynx lunge into the open, fangs bared in reckless fury. It slammed into an enemy squad, scattering them like leaves, but a flash of plasma fire seared its flank. The beast yowled, staggered, but refused to fall.
No, God!
The soldier surged up, blasting enemies aside, sprinting to the Wyrmlynx's side. He skidded down, cradling the beast's massive head, hand pressed to the smoking wound.
Stay with me. Come on. You can't leave me now. Not after all this.
The Wyrmlynx trembled, golden eyes meeting his. Blood bubbled at its lips, but it managed a soft, rumbling growl. Pain and trust woven together at last. Enemy fire pelted their cover. The soldier's heart hammered, but he refused to abandon his friend.
We get out, or we don't get out at all. I promise.
He hoisted the Wyrmlynx's head and, with a growl of his own, heaved the wounded beast onto his shoulders. Staggering under the weight, he pressed forward, through fire, through enemy lines, gun barking, teeth gritted against the agony of every step. Every bullet felt like a question. Why keep fighting? Why carry the beast? But every time he faltered, he remembered the moment they first faced death together, and the answer burned in his bones. They burst into a shattered alley, soldiers at their heels. The Wyrmlynx, even half-conscious, bared its fangs and hissed, a threat that sent their pursuers stumbling back. The soldier pressed on, heart and beast both refusing to quit. Above them, the first light of dawn broke through smoke. No promise of safety, but proof that, together, they could survive anything. And behind, the city burned, marking the price of a bond written in scars. Dawn spilled gold over the battlefield, touching ruined armor and shattered walls, painting every scar in living color. The city had fallen silent, smoke curling into the waking sky as the last echoes of battle faded. Atop the battered husk of a tank, the soldier stood, mud-caked, bloodied, eyes sunken but unbroken. By his side, the Wyrmlynx rose, leaning heavily against him, scales and fur torn, one wing dragging but head held high. The two faced the sunrise together, warriors, survivors, and something more. Across the rubble, survivors from both sides gathered. Human and alien soldiers alike stared in awe, weapons lowered, breath caught. Some made signs of blessing or whispered prayers. Others just watched, hearts shifting with the weight of what they saw. The soldier met their eyes. This is what survival looks like. The Wyrmlynx rumbled, golden gaze sweeping the crowd, every muscle trembling but defiant. The crowd parted, letting the two descend from their battered throne. As they walked, some reached out in wonder, others stepped aside in silent respect. In the aftermath,
Rumors raced through every trench, every bunker, every home. A human had tamed a dragon beast in the wasteland. Enemy became ally. Survival became legend. No one remembered who fired the last shot. Only the vision of man and Wyrmlynx, scars and all, standing unbroken. And as the sun climbed higher, every battered soul who saw them whispered a single truth, one that would outlive any war. Even in the worst hell, loyalty and courage make legends real.